Has the David? We're live, my friend. How are you?
I am well, I'm warm, very
Yeah.
warm. But other than that, very good.
How's your week been?
Chaotic and busy, just the way I like it.
That sounds like inside my head, but thank you so much for being here today on one of the second hottest day of the year. Super appreciate it.
A pleasure.
We'll give everyone just a minute or so to enter the room, as it were, and then we'll get started. And we've got a really exciting session today, and I think there's three main topics that we're going to dive into. Obviously, the title kind of gives it away, but before we get into the meat of that, we're going to start with the state of search today. Where are we at? And that's when I'm going to get inside your mind, David, find out a little bit more about you and your history and how you've got into this world that's bonkers at the moment. And then finally, after we get into the conversation stuff, we're going to talk a little bit about Google's I/O and some of the crazy announcements from last week that are going to change our lives forever. That's what I think anyway. That's what I think. So, how are we doing? I think we're looking good. I think let's get started. So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to David, who I'm just going to let you introduce yourself briefly for a moment. Go for it, David. Tell us who you are. We'll go into depth in a second.
Okay, I am David Sayce. I am a digital marketing consultant, often working within B2B and professional services, and have been doing that for about 30 odd years.
Yeah,
Got to feel old now.
30 years in SEO, pretty similar myself. That's a 60-year combined total here. So, on that note, if any of you have any questions for David or myself combined, together we should be able to answer them. If they're questions about the conversation, the state of search, I don't know, algo updates, whatever it is, now's your chance to get it in. But the crazier the questions, the more likely David and I will go off topic. But we'll we'll try and keep it on topic. So I forgot to introduce myself, John Earnshaw, Chief Product Evangelist at Pi. I'm sure most of you guys know me, but let's get in to the state of search. David, bit of history. Why and how did you get into search? And how did it evolve? And where are you now? What do you think of the world we're in?
It's crazy. So I I've always been involved with computers in some way. I It was really sort of the mid 90s I started to discover the internet as it was. I mean, to give you some idea, the World Wide Web at the time, I remember the announcement when inline images became a thing. You
Yeah,
used to have to click a button
yeah.
to go outside and see them. Um, and I used to make up little websites just for myself, for friends.
Mhm.
And then the business I was involved with, we decided to try a retail side of that. And so 96, 97, I built my first e-commerce website. Um, and that was fascinating. It really was. And then just been moving through across a lot of areas actually of digital marketing, not just the SEO, but the SEO side of things. It's the changes are, you know, looking back at when we used to. I mean, my favorite is still the white text on a white background.
Yeah.
If you had one more keyword than your competitor, you'd be there on top. Um, but all of these that we discovered as quick wins back then, we we felt like we were cheating in some way, and the search engines caught up. And sooner rather than later, all of that changed, and what was an easy way in became something that we ended up having to fix. We saw it with link building as well,
Mm.
gateway pages, all the rest of that. They work for a short time, and then it's all change again. But that's SEO, always changing.
Always changing and often comes full circle, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
and and you and I talk. I mean, at the moment, there's a lot of worry. Click through rates are going down. There's talk of the conversation Should we track prompts? How do we find out the prompts? What about agents? What about all of this? And this kind of reminds me of the fears that we had only a few years back with Mobile Geddon. Remember that?
Oh, that was that was all over the press at the time. Yeah, that
It,
was frightening.
it was almost bigger than this. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
much going on now that there isn't the same panic, but at the same time, it's just going on in people's minds.
It was a big panic at the time because also if you remember there were various ways to make your website mobile, whether
Yes.
it was a separate site or
Yeah.
the site adjusted,
Yeah.
um, and nobody was sure what was going to be the best way to do it. It was pure chaos at the time.
It was chaos, and Google kind of let us run with that chaos, didn't it? Because nobody was giving us clarity, but maybe there wasn't really any clarity on their side. So I think between us, we've pretty much seen it all, which brings me to this interesting question, David. What the heck do we call what we do now? Go on. And anybody else, drop it in the comments.
I
Drop
tell
it in the
you,
comments.
I when you do the vacuuming around the house, you still say, "Let's get the Hoover out." Um, I
Yeah,
I'm I don't care what it's called. I'll be honest. SEO works well. You get a general idea of what people are talking about when they say that. I think it covers a lot of sins. It's SEO from when it first started, as I said, to now has changed so much.
yeah,
I think it's interesting, you're hearing AEO, GEO, and I understand how they could be seen as subsets,
yeah.
areas similar to SEO, but I just keep calling it SEO or just digital optimization.
Because until that thing is no longer a search engine, you're still optimizing for that thing,
Yeah,
whether it's conversational or keywords or whatever. It is still the same thing, but there are always people trying to jump on a bandwagon and create a new name and get a name. I mean, for me, I lean into optimizing for conversations
yeah.
because, as I've said since like 10 years ago, every digital interaction that should be a conversation will become one. And search hasn't changed because of AI. For me, search has changed because people are demanding a conversation with that search engine that we're now optimizing for. And on the subject of optimizing, you and I, we've eaten, slept, thought about keywords for over 20 years.
Oh yeah.
Now we're talking about prompts, and I saw you at Brighton SEO a couple of weeks ago. You were wandering around. I heard people talking about optimizing for prompts. How are you doing for prompts? What's really the difference between the keywords that we were using and the prompts? I mean, from your perspective, is there any difference?
Well, in the first instance, I don't think there is. I mean, we've seen keywords that are going into search engines increase over time.
Mhm.
It used to literally be you'd put one or two words in there, and I think that's all the search engines could deal with at the time.
It
But
was.
more recently, we are seeing people asking questions within search engines, and that's sort of leading into what we see as the prompts now. But
Yeah.
I think with AI, it then takes it further because it doesn't stop after that initial keyword prompt search.
And that, David, is absolutely critical. It doesn't stop there. And even if you start with a keyword, you end up with the start of a conversation which people are continuing through an average of between 4 and 7 turns.
Yeah,
That involves a lot of words going one way and a lot of content coming back the other way. But it does still worry me that there's this notion that if you are not performing for a prompt, a long 30-word prompt, you can somehow optimize a piece of content to win for that. And to me, that sounds crazy.
yeah.
It's bonkers, isn't it? But anyway, there are always people trying to cash in on new things.
And that's one of the concerns I think at the moment. I think back maybe only 10, 15 years ago, there was less chatter across social media around SEO. There were fewer people involved. I think it's a crowded marketplace now, and everyone wants to have their say.
Yeah.
And sometimes having your say, you get heard if you say something different, something that, you know, suits your agenda.
So true, so true. And something just popped into my head when you said that. I was running a workshop the other day and we were talking about prompts. We were building synthetic prompts, for example. And the first thing I said was, don't worry about the nature of the prompt itself. It's the intent
Yeah.
that we're trying to meet. So somebody said, would anybody actually use that prompt? And I said, well, how long have you been doing SEO? She said, like, I don't know, 15 years. I said, the keywords that you were using, were they the actual keywords the clients were using? She said, probably not, but it was okay for keywords, but it's not okay for prompts. And I think there's kind of this gap in the middle somewhere. So it's time for a quick poll. So somebody in the background is going to press a magic button, estimate your average query length. And while we do this, David, what do you think yours is? What do you think yours is?
I'm just having a look at it here. Definitely more than 10 words.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think like yourself, I often use voice
Oh,
with
yes.
AI. But even when I'm typing, it's definitely more than the 10 words that you've got there. I generally try and get some details, get the thing out of my brain into the AI, and then let it take that and give a response, and then continue the conversation from there.
And you said exactly what Liz Reed was talking about last week when she stood up and said, nowadays, when people are using AI, they try and get their entire whatever challenges in their brain in one go. And you did say voice, didn't you? It's not just me,
Yeah,
you're using voice.
yeah.
Do you use any particular applications or you just dictate in?
I just dictate in, normally on dog walks. So there's normally a moment of confusion as I shout at the dog for chasing a squirrel.
Yeah.
But AI is pretty good at dealing with those interruptions.
Yeah. And there's some research being done on the impact of voice inputs. And we did some research years ago. This was after Google rolled out BERT and also Mum. And we
Yeah,
instantly discovered that when you use voice to search, regular search, the results were so much better. It was literally proportional. And when you communicate your entire thought and logic and whatever's in your mind into an AI, the results are incredible. And talking of results, more than 10 words, 38%. 5 to 10, 58%. 3 to 4 words, 4%. So the keyword is dead. Long
yeah.
live. Long live whatever replaces it. If we want to call it a prompt or a question, it doesn't matter. But thank you guys for communicating, for responding to that. Oh, is that it? Do I share the result? How do I do that? I don't know. I'm pressing buttons. I don't know what I'm doing. But Holly said, who's dialed in, not the Holly behind the scenes, varies on what I'm looking for, but I have started to just write sentences now as it's easier to explain exactly
Yeah.
what I mean. And I'd say, Holly, I don't work for these guys. I'm not endorsed, but there is an amazing piece of software called Whisperflow. And you can literally just talk into your phone. You can ask a prompt, you can define a question, and then that uses AI to make sense of what you said, cut out the ums and ahs and the stops, and create a proper piece of input. And that works super well. Now, the average for the world out there is pretty much in line with the respondents from today, except for ChatGPT, where it's between 20 and 70 words. So, what I did in between chatting with you earlier, I went to ChatGPT, mine happens to be called Dave, no relation, does anything and virtually everything. And I asked my average prompt length. And it turns out it's 1,180 characters, 180 to 240 words, including 2 to 5 query intents. And again, this is what Liz Reed said. It's what you said. More people are just trying to define the entire problem in one go. The more context and relevance we can provide the AI, the better. But is it just you and me? Have you looked at other people searching? Have you observed? Have you seen it in the workplace? What are you noticing?
I think it's interesting. I think there's definitely those that treat it similar to how we treat traditional search engines, and it
Yeah.
is just a basic question, maybe even a few words. But I know a lot of people, and to be fair, most of them are within marketing who will
Yeah.
put in whole sentences, paragraphs of stuff. And there's nothing quite like creating a prompt of, I don't know, 2 sheets of A4 worth of prompt and watching as the AI churns through it all.
And watch and wait. And for me, I want the AI to take its time.
Yeah,
I don't want it to rush into anything. And when I see it taking its time, I know those results are going to be better. So, and the reason I'm kind of asking these questions while we're having this discussion is we've come from a world where we optimized pages for keywords. URL title, header one, meta description, internal links, extra, all of that. And we've just proved in the past couple of minutes that people aren't using keywords. They're using
yeah.
longer constructs. So the question becomes, can we optimize for these longer constructs?
I think
Probably.
that
Go on, what?
I think that goes back to intent again.
Yeah,
And I think, this is one of the things I see with business. They need to often go back a few steps, understand who that client, that customer is, what
yeah,
it is that they're looking for, what it is that they can offer,
yeah,
and try and get that detail out there. I mean, we mentioned earlier, I mean, it's getting to the stage where they may not even visit the website before they get in touch,
yeah.
but they need the data from it.
That's so true. All those decisions are being made up here in this conversation layer that I think everybody knows about. Everybody kind of knows it's all happening there, but there are no clear answers, David, on
Yeah.
how to get in there, how to get your brand mentioned, how to open the citation doorway. But we're starting to see clues as we're going to see shortly. So, next kind of obvious question, do we need to know the actual prompts that people are using? People in the chat just comment, but David, do we need to know the actual prompts?
No.
No.
It's back to, as you said earlier, about keywords. We never need to, well, except for the early days, we never need to know the exact
Yes.
keyword that was going in. It was the theme, it was the topic, it was the intent around it. And if we thought search engines were getting smart, AI is just such a leap forward on that. Um, it can understand so much stuff. I
Yeah.
think if you were going to try and track every individual prompt, every variation of the same question, that's a huge amount of data and a lot of resource wasted.
I think that's a great point. I think it would be impossible.
Yeah,
I just can't say. And when we think about prompts, so here's a 23-word prompt. I often use this because it sticks in my mind. 3-word prompt, best men's blazers. Here's 23 words. What are the best men's blazers for winter 2026 that are under £300 and suitable for smart casual? 23
exactly.
words. That's the only prompt I could ever remember. But how can you optimize for that? We don't need to understand the prompts. Okay, so how then, if that's the case, how might we go about visualizing conversations? And when I sit with an AI, whether it's AI mode, Chat GPT, Perplexity, Claude, it doesn't matter. I'm sitting down and having a conversation. And as you said, a multi turn conversation. So, what I'm going to take you through, Dave, is a process that we've been working on. I know you've seen some of it, but I'd love to get your thoughts on this process and how valuable you think it would be able to visualize the landscape in this way. So, and I'm going to be using your brain as we go through. So, because we always talk about e-commerce at Pine. It's always easy to talk about e-commerce and attributes and products, but the kind of services that you work with,
Yeah.
they're different. And do you find that most of the advice out there is for like e-commerce, and when it comes to
There,
different?
there is a lot around e-commerce, I think. So at the moment, working with professional services, specifically, as the example is here, lawyers,
Yeah,
and also architectural planners as well. So yeah, it's a fascinating landscape. It really is, and there isn't that much information compared to something like e-commerce.
Yeah, and we've been guilty of just talking about e-commerce for so long. And that's why you're here. So we're going to mix it up. And that's why I've chosen a subject I know nothing about, personal injury compensation. So the steps we're going to go through. Number one, we imagine conversations. I'm going to pick your brains in a second. Number two, we map out what these conversations might look like. And then three, we visualize them, and it's super straightforward. So the first one, and when I sit with clients, I think, imagine the conversations your audience is going to be having. So for you, you actually get to hear the actual questions people are asking. So give me an idea of some of the conversations that you are party to.
So, I mean, you know, there comes a stage where during that journey, somebody's done the research, they've decided they need legal help, legal advice,
Yeah.
um, and they've discovered us. That will then be a phone call, an email in
Uh-huh.
through to one of the partners here at one of the firms. And sometimes we have triage before that, and we work to collect as much of that information as possible.
Yeah.
And that's one of the fun parts of my role, trying to get all that information back into marketing so we can trawl through it and get an understanding of what are people asking the most, where are the quirky questions,
Yeah.
and really looking to see, okay, is that something we can or should put on the website?
Yeah.
Because these days, by the time somebody gets in touch with a firm or lands on the website, their intent is pretty high on where they're going to go with it.
And would you say that is more the case today than it was 2 years ago, thanks to AI?
I I think absolutely, yeah. Yeah. The amount of stuff that I mean, in the earlier stages of looking, whether it's e-commerce, professional services, whatever it is, the responses that you're getting from AI hold so much information.
Yeah.
And they'll often come back and question, have you thought about this, or should I look at this avenue next as well? And so there's a bit of guidance coming from AI as well.
So would you then say, David, and that was fascinating, that people are now starting to use this AI as their personal assistant?
I think a lot of people are, not everyone, and I think
Mhm.
that's something we have to bear in mind. But I think a lot of people, AI is that first port of call.
Yeah.
I've got a want, a need, a desire. Right, let's fire up AI, and I'm going to
Yeah.
start feeding it the information.
And this is wonderful. So what I'm hearing is that if people are actually coming to you guys and the company you work with and saying, taking the advice of their AI and saying, have you thought about this? They trust it
Yeah,
quite deeply.
yeah. For sometimes for better or worse, you still
Yeah.
have to be very careful with AI.
Yeah.
But we know that as an organization, we've had work come in that has been tracked back to somebody doing a search. I mean, to be honest, we've just found that out from asking them, how
Yeah.
did you discover us? And
Yeah.
they've gone, yeah, I was on ChatGPT
Oh,
and saw your name coming up. So getting in touch.
and that should give us all hope.
Yeah.
The fact that and that they discovered you in a conversation.
Yeah.
They helped that conversation help them make up their mind. They then came through a citation doorway, entered your world, and a trust is established. That's
That's
powerful,
it.
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's kind of lifted a load of the weight off our actual website itself because they're walking in the doors and they love what they're seeing.
I
Yeah,
mean, it still means, I mean, you need to, as I say, the data's there on the website. So that's where the AI is going to be trawling. And don't forget, it's going to be looking at all your competitors too.
yeah,
So, you need to make sure you've got some pretty good content on there.
indeed. And it's going to look at everything everybody's saying about you off-site as well,
Yeah.
including your social assets too.
Social aspects, review websites as well. So
Critical.
all of that is being picked up, analyzed, and fed back to you.
And would you say, David, that you guys spend quite a bit of time looking off-site at what's being said around the brands that you work with?
We try to. We're a very busy team.
Yeah,
It's definitely something there. I mean, I think we'd love to do more, but it's definitely something that we've started doing. I mean, since I joined the firm about a year ago,
Uh-huh.
that's been a focus for us, and we're hoping to grow that more.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be more and more important
Yeah.
as our brands stop being experienced. More on that shortly. So back to the conversations. So the imagination phase. So what I did with my zero knowledge of your world, I came up with some likely conversations. What I did, I chose an example legal website. I looked at their content and I decided for myself, these are the conversations they probably want to be in. Imagine that bunch of people in a pub talking about a claim. I've had an accident. It was somebody else's fault. Should I claim? So that's one conversation. So the, the challenge then comes is how do you visualize this in search? So what we've developed is this methodology for actually mapping and visualizing this landscape. So let me jump into this first part. So conversation number one, should I claim? We imagine a group of people sitting in a pub having that conversation. One might start with a question, I've had an injury. Then it might go to another, and then it will go round. So after about 10 minutes, they've kind of covered that conversation space. So what we've replicated is a way to mathematically map conversation space with words that happen to be prompts that used to be keywords. And we come up with a collection of prompts. Here are four of them. There are eight in total that will map that space and mimic a multi-turn journey. So would you say, looking at those prompts, are they the kind of things that people might ask, or are they crazy?
No, no, these are pretty much spot on. Yeah. These are the sort of questions that we pick up from within the business.
Wow.
So these are good examples of real world prompts.
And right now, if you come up with the questions that people are asking for the business, what are you doing with the questions? Are you kind of thinking, are we answering that in our content? Is there a process?
This is what we're working through at the moment. So yes, we're going through, we're looking at what parts of the website it's impacting, where the missing content is, having a cheeky look around and see what everyone else is doing as well.
Yeah.
And then trying to build more information in a well-structured way into the website.
Wonderful, wonderful. You mentioned having a looking around at what everybody else is doing. Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
AI's doing it, agents are doing it, the search engine's doing it, everybody's doing it. So we absolutely should. So we take the prompts, and let's say each conversation will have a number of prompts that are mathematically calculated in totality to map the conversation space. So that just leaves us to visualize the SERP. Whether it's AI overview and AI mode, or it doesn't matter, Gemini, whatever it is. With this information, we can visualize the SERP. And these are the things that we want to know. And every brand wants to know who's being mentioned. So when we're asking about injury compensation, which brands are in there? What's the sentiment? Are people loving what they're saying or hating it? And critically, who's getting those citation doorways? We all want to know that. But most of all, we want to know what are the opportunities for me to get more people onto my site and spend more money? Would you say that's correct?
Absolutely 100%. Yeah. And that's where a view like this is going to become more and more important to businesses going forward.
Yeah,
It's going to give them the information and their knowledge that they need to bring into the company to make sure they're displaying the information that their client customer is looking for.
exactly. And it kind of gives you a roadmap because if you don't know where the gaps are, and if you don't know where the citation doorways are missing and in which conversations, you've got nowhere to start. So, and while we do this, I must remember that we do still track keyword equivalence.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. From my perspective, when people suddenly discover they're doing nothing in the conversation, if we see, oh, but you're actually position three on page one for the keyword alternative. So that was an authority grab. Here, we're perhaps lacking the depth, uniqueness, and originality to get us that citation doorway because we're saying the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And do you find that this is a problem, saying the same as everyone else?
I think it's probably one of the biggest content issues I see across professional services.
Yeah,
It's almost a case of looking at the competitors and then to some extent recreating what's happening there rather than reimagining. So it's
yeah,
vital to go in and think about, okay, well that's a nice starting point, but what have they missed?
mm,
What is the knowledge that we have in-house that we're happy to share? Because especially within professional services, whether it's financial or legal,
yeah,
the answers to questions, because regulated industry, they're pretty much the same sort of thing.
yeah,
And I've found over the years that there's often been a reluctance of firms to give away too much information. They feel
yep,
it's we're giving away our IP. Whereas I'm saying, well, if you give that away, then you're going to start building out that trust, that authority. It's going to be, and this is why I often say to people, yes, we're going to put this page on a website. Yes, the questions that we're answering are pretty basic,
yeah,
but it's that first stage into making your brand visibility
yeah.
out there.
You've got to find ways of joining the conversation,
Yeah,
and the content is the way in there. And you mentioned some things there that to me I immediately translated into uniqueness,
yeah.
originality, and depth. And again, I come back to Liz Reed and those three words. And the data we're looking at, and I'm going to show you a great example in a second, it comes true. So we've thought about the conversations. There were five of them. We've built some prompts, synthetic prompts that map a conversation space, mimicking a multi-turn journey. We then visualize it here. So there are probably some names and brands in here familiar with you, because obviously this is a
Oh, yeah.
legal profession. On the right-hand side there, this is about which brands get dimensions. I've circled one there or highlighted it, Osborne's, because I'm going to come on to that in a second. On the left, and Osborne, and you can see they are in every conversation. The conversation groups are identified by the key at the bottom. So the one that we were looking at every day, should I claim compensation? Should I claim conversations? Osborne's are in there, Express. All of these guys are in there, except Medco, who are not in that conversation. But what do we want at the end of the day, Dave? We want citations. Because what's a citation? It's a doorway into our ecosystem.
That's it.
So JF Law, yeah, they're pretty good on this day. But when you look over time, there's one firm on there that stands out. And I don't know these guys. Osborne's Law, highlighted in red. They're in conversation one with doorways, two, three, four. So they're mentioned by themselves, by others. And here we can see their citations, and I call them doorways. That's what they are in the SERP over time. 24th of May, almost 30 doorways open. How's their website doing it? Look at that wonderful structure. / personal injury solicitors. I bet that rings bells with you, doesn't it? That kind
Oh,
of structure.
totally. Yeah. And
And
it's interesting because I think this is most likely something that's been built up over time. This isn't something that they've just knocked up in the last 6 months or so.
oh, yeah,
This is something that has been built into the website over time.
yeah. And we looked at this because we looked at it earlier. And this always fascinates me because I do this kind of research in so many sectors, and I'm always intrigued about who gets to open the doorways. And then it dawned on me one day when I put all the data together. Google wants to keep us in AI mode because obviously it's building the transaction rails and checkouts in there, and it's going to have our agent in there soon. ChatGPT wants to keep us in their world. A citation doorway is an escape.
Yeah.
Only going to give us that when we work super hard, which leads to the question, how did those Osborne guys open doorways in every conversation? And then I clicked on one of them. That was the doorway. And I imagined it was like a car accident. And there's a really long form page. So I started with quick jump links at the top. Love those. Get me straight
Yeah.
to where I'm looking for. It tells me everything I need to know. It's loaded with double eat. It's got everything. Is this so? Obviously, they weren't optimizing for the conversation. I don't think so. This is just
No,
fortuitous. Is this a case of very good classic SEO just winning in the conversation?
this is it's not just. I mean, from the outside, it's good SEO. Technically, the website has no doubt a good technical build behind it.
Hmm.
They know the sort of questions, areas of inquiry that clients are coming to the page to do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think the one thing that I'm always impressed with is just the internal side of the amount of effort it takes within professional services to grab
Oh,
all this information, to
yeah.
get the partner there signing off on everything. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, that's a task in itself, but this is a great example.
I think it is a great example. And I actually looked at the SERP and I looked at the extent to which these guys are participating in the conversation through synthesization. And I can literally come back to this very one page and see extracts of unique content. They were actually giving numbers. How much could I claim? What will work? What won't work? And I thought, and then I see there's Sophie Davis, got a LinkedIn. I trust this lady. I trust everything about it. And I know the AI clearly trusts this as well. So it works. It works beautifully.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm still seeing in so many sectors big brands getting all the mentions and zero citations. And do you think this is just because all those big brands' content is pretty much the same? And
It's
once you've
vanilla.
seen one, you've seen it is vanilla.
Yeah.
And it's not even AI vanilla, it's human vanilla.
It's saying the same thing as everyone else.
Yep.
It's not until you get down often into those niche organizations
Yeah.
where I guess, part of me thinks they don't have the bureaucracy and the red tape that
Yeah.
maybe they're in the bigger firms. And they've got a bit of freedom to go, well, let's do this. Let's take this route into creating this information. And, it's that uniqueness that sells.
Yeah. Uniqueness again. And you hit the nail on the head, David, when you talked about the smaller, more agile businesses. Literally, the conversation layer is so dynamic now that a brand can see a conversation they're not in. And as long as you tick the basic boxes of SEO, you're doing everything right, there's no reason why you cannot become a participant if you already have the candidate content. So there are opportunities all round. Now, here's a big question for you. Could our brands be about to collapse into mere attributes? So, Brighton SEO, obviously, we were there, and I stood on stage and I said, the minute you delegate authority and responsibility to a personal agent who goes out to shop for you, the brand doesn't get to be the brand. It's collapsed into nothing more than a set of attributes, spicing, maybe, pricing, specifications, availability, reviews, all of that. I said that 2 weeks ago. What? And I said it's going to happen quite soon, and it'll happen before we know it. And then there was an announcement. But before the announcement, let's run a poll, and I'm going to ask you the same. Have you used any form of personal assistant when it comes to search? Doesn't matter if it's built into a browser, separate, Comet assistant.
I gotta say, I've been very careful with using it.
Yeah,
I've
go
got to
on.
say, I still worry about the Skynet side of things. About my God, it's going to go into everything, and God knows what's in there.
So you haven't
Um,
installed like
I
Crawlbot or something on your computer and let it run wild. I
I
have,
I have on a computer,
right?
but I haven't given it access to my personal email and things like that.
Yeah,
But I'm running basically it's a demo setup on a spare computer I had,
right.
and from what I'm seeing so far, it is fascinating.
But you're not letting it book your summer holiday yet, David?
Not yes, but that, that will probably change soon.
Yeah, yeah, because it does turn out we're quite happy to delegate search, but delegating decisions is a
Yeah.
little bit tougher. especially when it comes to representing our money or our taste or our fashion or anything like that. So results are in. I don't know if you can see them there, David. Nope, I
Yeah.
haven't. I'm ready to delegate 50%. That's awesome. Yeah, but it's terrible. No, said nobody. Yeah, with mixed success.
Interesting.
Yeah, with great success. So I,
Oh, that's really interesting.
it is, isn't it? And it gives me hope,
Yeah.
but also worries me because I guarantee now, I say it here on this webinar, by this Christmas, we will be using agents built into our browsers. That'll be Chrome to take
Yep.
all the heavy lifting off our shopping. So thank you for everybody who participated. I don't know where I'm clicking, or I'm clicking all buttons I have no authority to click. So let's get into Google's announcement. I think it was last week, Monday, Tuesday at the
Yep.
I/O. We announced Gemini Spark. Wow. So what is Spark going to be? Well, one day I'm going to be using Chrome. Next minute, there's going to be a little personal assistant in the side already built in. It's going to be super friendly. It's going to say, hey, David, if you connect me to your Gmail, I can organize it all for you. Job done. Connect me to your calendar. I can manage your life. Job done. Docs, Drive, Sheets. You know, after like 10 minutes, it knows all about us. It knows our preferences, what we like, what we don't like. And then we're going to be able to task it with purchase challenges or other problems. Book me this, but I only want it at the cheapest rate. Hit the button, shut your laptop, it'll go away. And that's the difference. This it's almost turned into a task. It's going to go away, solve these problems, negotiate on your behalf, and come back and present the result. Who's not going to use this?
Yeah. And I wonder what the next stage is and whether it's simply a case of when we talked earlier, I mentioned this about it was Will Critchlow
Uh-huh.
who mentioned this some years, I mean, quite a few years back, and how with all of this, I mean, this was future thinking at the time.
Yeah.
Google knows where you are, who you are, even more so now.
Yep.
That it might just turn around and you wake up in the morning, it goes, you've got a meeting up in Leeds next week. I've booked you a train ticket because they're the cheapest they've been in the last 90 days. It's all bought, it's paid for.
A
Here's
hundred
your code.
percent.
Yep.
100% that will happen to all of us. I mean, this is the reality of the trajectory as we see it now. And only a month ago, David, the forecasters at Gartner and places like that were talking about a 2-year trajectory
Mhm.
until 50% of transactions were personal agent mediated.
Yeah.
50% of our audience already want to do that today. And Google's coming forward with Gemini. I can't wait to see it. Are you going to be all over it?
I think I probably will be. It's absolutely fascinating. Both, I think both from the side of using it, but also
Hmm.
trying to dive into the background of how's this working? What's it actually
Yeah.
doing?
What's
What's
it?
it thinking?
Yeah. What's it looking for?
Yeah.
Because we already talked about the fact that when an agent, and Gemini Spark is nothing more than an agent, admittedly, it's a clever one. It knows everything about us. It knows everything about us, but it can't see the fluffiness of the brand, can't read the
Yeah.
history, can't see the pictures, imagery. All it has left is attributes. So when Google comes along 2 months ago, says, "Hey guys, there's all these new attributes in the merchant center." What's everybody done? Ignored them. And you've already said that content, when it becomes the same, it doesn't stand out. It becomes collapsed. This is Google's way of telling us that if you sell products, describe them with all of these different attributes.
Yeah.
But I don't
Without
see a
doubt.
rush. And that's the way. And we'll talk about how attributes apply in your sector in a second. But for me, Spark is going to become deeply personalized. And I think Google rushed out quite early with this announcement, probably to get one over OpenAI and ChatGPT before they build in a personalized agent that's going to do very similar things. So for our brands, this is a reality. Can you see, David, a near future where websites just don't really get visits until the decision's made. Is that reality?
Yeah, I mean, I can see it as sort of a, you've either got the agents going in and doing the information, and maybe you're reviewing it
Yeah,
and clicking through citations out of curiosity, going to the website, probably used most in that final decision making. Okay, AI has said this. Let me just dive into the website and have a look for myself, that
yeah,
reassurance model. But
yeah,
I love the way in some ways, it's going to get rid of some of the bias that we have.
yeah. And on that, do you think so? When Macy's personal assistant launched, it managed to convince the average buyer to spend 4.25 times as much before they got to the store.
That's
I
impressive.
mean, isn't that impressive? So
That's frightening.
that's the average.
Yeah.
I mean, so that was a business agent. But when a personal agent represents you, your personal agent there, David, is there to defend you. So whereas the human meets the Macy's agent spends 4 times as much money, your personal agent will be there to barter, negotiate, lock down, and perhaps won't be as susceptible to the cross sell and the upsell.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're like me, but when you walk into a shop and you buy yourself a blazer or something, and they say, "Sir, 1 second, that you've got to have that bag." Are you a sucker for it?
More often than not, I think Apple is the great upseller.
Oh,
I've walked in a number of times thinking, "Yep, that basic iPad is the one for me."
yeah.
And within about 20 minutes, I've gone about 5, 6 rungs up the ladder and spent twice as much money.
You're a man after my own heart. I would do exactly the same. But thank goodness these personal agents will be designed to act in our interest. This
Yeah.
is the money because I'm too much of a sucker. Give it the final price. In you go. And one personal agent will start to negotiate with multiple business agents in parallel. So they will be competing against each other. And all the while, nobody's going to come to our poor website until the decision is made. So in e-commerce, we talk about attributes like specification, pricing, dial those in. Would you say for a service like the ones you guys are offering, these are the kind of attributes that we want to be locking into and strengthening if we want to stand out? And is there
It
anything missing?
this is absolutely it. I mean, we've got, as you'd expect, trust, expertise, win probability. I think is a fascinating one, and it will scare a lot of law firms out there.
It's a question people ask.
Exactly, yeah. And I think at the end of the day, we can't hide behind a lot of this stuff. The information is out there,
Yep.
whether it's on the firm's website, on a review website,
Yeah.
on wherever. So you need to own that information. So yeah,
Yes.
win probability, that's an interesting one because I think if the firm itself says, okay, well, here's our information, here's our take on it, and then that's backed up across other sources as well,
Yeah.
then at least, I think that puts the firm who does that in a much better place.
And I think if there was one firm doing that, that stands out.
Yeah.
Their content is now unique. They have a unique point, no longer susceptible to collapse, hence a citation doorway. I mean,
That would be the hope.
I mean, that would kind of be a really cool experiment as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just to try that, because if we can map conversations now, and we can see in one where people are talking about the kind of money and that sort of touchy subject, by creating some content where you're already an established authority, you already have candidate contents that aren't quite strong enough or unique enough. Simply adding a paragraph may work.
Yeah.
What?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, this takes the work that we've been doing over the last few years on websites up a whole other level.
Yeah,
It's going to be difficult convincing businesses that this is the right thing to do.
yeah,
But I think, having an element of the transparency and honesty
yep.
is the way to go.
And talk about being honest with businesses. Are you getting a lot of questions about click through? Right. I want to ask you before I forget. Where's our traffic going and what's happening? Are you getting that?
It's interesting. So, with a lot of clients, I'm the one who puts together the reports for the senior stakeholders, the board reports, and because I normally come in on an interim sort of basis. So some of this stuff has already been laid out, and I
Yeah.
take one look at it, and it's not quite vanity metrics, but it's there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think click-through race is has never been fully understood within business. Um, there are so many variations of
Yeah.
what it could mean.
Yeah.
If you have a one-to-one relationship, somebody has put your information into AI or into a search engine, they found you, they've clicked on you, you've got what you want, that's it, they've gone, that's great.
Yeah.
But historically, websites with a click-through race, they pick up such absolute rubbish.
Oh,
It's got
yeah.
better in the last 5 or 6 years, but
Yeah.
you know, they'll pick up random terms on a website
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
deliver that into search engines. And then, of course, when you do your reporting,
Yeah.
that sort of skews all the data. I think now we're getting to a place where it's much more granular information, much more exact information over
Yeah.
what's actually happening. And of course, the main thing is, okay, click-through rate has maybe plummeted down in the
Yeah.
last 18 months, whatever. How's the business doing?
Yeah.
Are you still getting work in? Um, w- you know, Looking at the external environment as well, what else is
Yeah.
playing a part?
Yeah. So true. I think if anything, we've been listening to and stuck on vanity metrics for
Yeah.
so long. Now it's time to be truthful.
Yeah.
And if we were bigging up vanity metrics and clicks where 90% of people just came and went, we probably shouldn't have been doing that in the first place. So,
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and this goes back to I mean, I don't see it so much these days, but saying, "Oh yeah, we've got 500 keywords on page one."
yeah.
Whoop-de-doo.
Do people still say that? I bet there are people that still say that.
I'm hearing it a lot less these days, but
Yeah.
it still crops up every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably a red flag if that's what your agency's doing.
100%. So we cut, the time once again has flown. I've got a couple of questions for you, Dave. First one to what actually matters today when it comes to search? I mean, we said prompts don't really matter unless you're looking at them in context, and the keywords matter. I mean, what to you? What really matters for SEO and success?
I think there's two sides to it. I think it's understanding who your client, your customer is,
Yep.
getting a real picture over their wants, desires, and needs.
Uh-huh.
And then you move on to the technical side. How are you delivering that?
Yeah.
And are your digital channels working to the best of their capabilities to match what the client and customer want?
Yeah, I love it. And because you're widening it there, do you bring in like social? Do you see it social being very much part of what you're doing?
I think probably even more so now
Yeah.
as AI grows. I think with search, we saw elements of social popping up
Yes.
occasionally.
Yeah.
Now, I think AI is actually going to, it's going out there and it's looking through all of these
Yeah.
social mentions to find out more details.
Exactly. Your brand ends up becoming what the ecosystem thinks it is and
Yeah.
what everybody's saying about you. And really, you know, SEO and social today being separate, that's insane.
And that's why, I mean, especially these days, I'd never call myself a hard and fast SEO. There are people out there that will know plenty more than me,
But
but
it's too much to it.
there is. I mean, I remember when I used to control all of digital marketing as a single person in a
Yeah.
business. Those days are way, way gone. And that's what I think as well firms need to consider these days. Do you have the resource
Yeah.
to get all this information ready for AI?
Yeah. And you think, generally, what I'm finding is as soon as AI is mentioned, suddenly resource starts to become
Yeah,
available.
funny that. Yes, the wallets open up, and all of a sudden,
We just keep SEO on the down low, and we just say it's about AI visibility. So, have you got any advice before we go to questions? Did they have any? Although it's late in the day, any advice? Any last words of advice for new people coming into the SEO industry, given everything that you know?
I tell you what, I think there's a lot to be said for spending some time and going back through some of those old marketing books.
Yeah,
You know, the last, I mean, the only education I have within an element of digital marketing was an MBA I did that covered e-commerce, and this is back in the early 2000s. But learning about SWOT, Porter's Five Forces,
yeah,
those sort of old school marketing frameworks, I think is a fascinating insight. I
yeah,
think trying to pick up bits of information where you can. So if you're not in the technical side of SEO,
yeah,
at least have a good understanding of what it entails,
yeah.
because it keeps moving. I
It,
think, you have to stay curious. 30 years doing this, and I literally no one week has been the same as the next, and I love it.
and thank God for that. Thank goodness for that. Every time I think SEO is getting boring, something happens. Um, that, that that is wonderful. I just want to see now, David, if there are any questions, or is this a poll? Somebody's going to tell me something in the background. Um, are you in the conversation? I think. Oh, there is a poll. Right, there's a poll running. If anybody wants to explore Pi, wants a demo, wants to talk about conversations, wants to know how we do all of that, then just click the relevant button, and then we'll go to questions and we'll see if there are. Although it's like still 30 degrees in here on a Thursday. Anyone without any sense is out in the sun now, aren't they?
Lucky them. I'm just coming up to 29 degrees.
You're 29. I I bet I daren't look at my thermometer anymore. Wonderful. Okay, so I think that poll has ended. I'm just going to see if there are any questions. I'm just going to check if there were any. Okay, I don't know whether we've got any questions. Last chance for any questions, guys. If there aren't, everyone's rushed off into the sun. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of that poll there. So, just to finish, then, I could talk to you all day.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah.
And I would say to anybody, if you're in this space and you're not connected with David on LinkedIn, just connect up, because you publish more good stuff, relevant stuff, interesting and informative stuff than anybody I know out there. So for that, David, I thank you, as well as for coming on here. I thank you for that as
I
well.
appreciate that.
No worries. So, and to everybody who's tuning in, thank you as well. And David, we got to do this again. We need to do this
I'm
more.
up for that.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I look forward to maybe doing some joint posts on LinkedIn. We'll explore that conversation together and see what we can discover.
That sounds good. Oh, I'm liking all the hearts and clappy hands coming
And
up.
it's not even me, my hands are off the keyboard. But yeah, that's kind of nice. I love that. So thank you, everybody. David, have a wonderful evening, weekend, and we will speak soon, my friends.
You take care. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.